I've pre-wet the paper. I'm going to start with it upside down. I haven't pre-wet the bottom. I've pre-wet this part to get it so that there's a little bit of water in the paper, and that way it will draw it in. I don't know if you've personally experienced this, where if you splash water on it or hit it with a brush, sometimes it kind of resists it, and then you go over it a couple times and then it starts pulling it in. So that's why I pre-wet it. Now I did pre-wet it by splattering it. So I painted in along here, and then I did a few things where I want kind of like softer edges and stuff, but then I splattered in the water so that when I splatter on paint, it will hit in certain areas and absorb, it'll hit other areas, and it'll sit on top, so it'll give a little bit more variation. I personally really like when the edges of a bubble, or not a bubble, but a droplet of paint, like a droplet goes down, and then as it dries it leaves a ring on the outside, a little like hickey. I personally like that, to have it here and there. So it's very subtle, but that's part of what gives a sense of detail in watercolor. That little circle, and then within that circle, the texture of the paper and how the pigment dried, in the recesses, different than it did on the higher parts. And there's a lot going on there that gives an illusion of detail in watercolor. So I've got all that done. I will be using these chip brushes. They're 50 cents through 50 cents each, $2 at a local store. So I'm sure you can even get them cheaper through Amazon or something like that. And then let's see. So right now I just want to get something to keep the brushes from sitting in their own muck. Put this over here, and then usually I do this like a plan, and then it ends up that I only end up using a couple of brushes, but I'm going to try to use this guy for the yellows and oranges, this guy maybe for the purples, and then one for the blues and the greens. I'm just going to put down some paint. None of this is really detail oriented, it's more about energy. But I don't want a lot of green over here in the sky, so and I might not put any green in there at all. I did mix some green, but we'll see. So I'm going to rip this so it has a more of a natural edge, and then I'll do it right there for now. So I need one of my clamps, and I'm going to cue the music and start going. All right, so I am approaching the end of this first run. I did lift a little color here, dropped in some orange to try to carry that over as that mirror image, putting in some blues to really break up these greens. I really like the way that's looking right now, as far as this more broken, mottled up color balance right here. So just dropping in a little bit of color, bringing it down linear, and then I am going to just let this dry. It is very wet. I have it very flat because I do want a lot of pooling to go on, and I want it to really have a lot of darkness and depth and swirling and whirling around and all that fun stuff. So I will let this dry probably overnight. I gotta mop up some of these areas though. I'm really happy with the texture in here. I like the color in there. The buckling, I mean, this is Arch block paper, and it's still buckled like crazy, but it also kind of gives a little bit more spontaneity to it. I love the color in here. I might actually, and I know the sails were supposed to be kind of, well, it'll be too difficult to put them in to darken the background and lighten the sail, so I will have to darken the sails a little bit just to distinguish them, that it is backlit. But after that, they'll really pop out, and I'll put in a little bit of detail here and there in the trees and this bridge and some rock formations. So this has got a ways to go. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks right now. Now I just got to do a little bit of mopping up, and again, I wet the paper, it pulls in the color, and this is slightly damp, so it will lift. So I've got the initial wash is all dry, it's set. The boats are very visible up here, especially where the color is lighter. Now what I'm going to do is go in and I'll darken this background so that right there the sails are kind of glowing, but then over here I'll do a little bit of darkening, and so it'll be this game of kind of push and pull, trying to get it to look like the sails are backlit, but not necessarily brighter than anything else. I mean, maybe in here it'll appear a little bright, and I'll do something with this sail. So I've got to kind of play with it and see what's going on. So I have some greens mixed up to darken the background, but not necessarily, I don't want it to get any, really any warmer, because I do want it to just work on this like a little background area, just to kind of get that to, it's kind of counterintuitive, but it'll be a little bit darker to push it back, but then the base of the boat will be a lot darker to bring it forward. And then I've got to put in where the water line is. I mean, there's a lot of little details here and there to do, but again, I don't want to get too bogged down, so I just want to put in a little bit of that tree, put in a wash, do a little bit of lifting here and there. So I've got this piece of baker's parchment just to kind of rest my hand on, so it's non-stick. I don't want to get any grease all on there from my hands, so a little bit cautious at this point in the game. So I'm going to switch the playback to quiet.